What's up, y'all? It's Peaches, your favorite nail tech. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to do some intricate acrylic flowers. Now, this is my mama. Y'all already know. If you've watched my last video, it's about how I did this fill on her and how I do fills in general. So that's how we got to where we are now, okay? So go ahead and watch that. I'll link it somewhere. And then, well, I don't want to say leave and come back. Watch that after this, okay? So these flowers are much more intricate than my last video. My last video was more really for beginners to get the hang of how to do a flower. Now this is the next step, how to do different types of flowers, okay? And you already know, we start with the bling first so the glue can dry. So before I really get to explaining, we got to do the subscriber shout out. And today's subscriber is Stephanie Tolbert. Listen, she been subscribed since April. Y'all see that? Y'all see she been subscribed and hopefully watching every single video since April? Because listen now, we got it. Y'all have been on the subscriptions, and now what we need to really do is everybody get on the turning on your notifications, okay? And follow me on Instagram, because I post every day there too, okay? So I appreciate you. Can't say it enough. Y'all already know. We are very close to 400 subscribers, which means what? We close to 500, which means what? We close to 1K, which means what? We close to getting monetized. Come on, like, y'all already know what's going on. Okay. Ooh, not me spilling Gatorade. Child, please. Okay, so like I was saying, when I do acrylic flowers, no matter what kind, I always start by putting the bling down first. And the reason why I do that, I put all the bling down first, is because you need a little minute for the glue to dry. Now, if you are a person who uses rhinestone gel and diamond gel and you cure it in the lamp, you won't have to worry about this. But if you're a person who uses like glues and resins and things like that, you will want to put all the bling down first, okay? Now, I like to use multiple sizes and things because I feel like it just adds another element of some extra. I feel like a lot of times some people tend to use the same sizes of bling throughout the set, and that's fine. But y'all know my style is very much bougetto, very much gaudy and out there. So like I said, this is my mama. She don't normally do bling or nothing, but like I said in my previous video, sometimes my mama have ideas and I decide, do I feel like listening to them or not? And this particular time, she didn't have no ideas. She always just let me do what I want. And I was about tired of seeing her with all these little, I don't want to say plain sets because I be deciding, but it's time that we bump her to the next level. And that's just what it is on that, okay? So the color that I'm using here is Core White from Young Nails, and Core White is what I use as a milky white. It's very, very nice, and it's great for doing flowers because it is a core white. That means it does have quite a bit of clear in it, and it is a strong color, which makes it easy for you guys to do flowers because it gives a really nice consistency. Okay, so you see the type of bead you need is one that, okay, here we go. See, that wasn't what I needed because it wasn't coming off. That was going to be kind of difficult to work with. So what you need is a bead that you see how when I place it down, it stays in place. But because it is a little bit small, I just want to add a little bit more to it. Now, you can also do that when your bead is a little too wet. If you stick your brush in there, just a nice dry bead, you see how it kind of soaks that up? And I would suggest slowly doing it so that way you will get the size that you want. Now, this particular flower is going to have two pointed petals, one on bottom right here, one on the top. Now, I've only done this about twice. Like this, well, let's say this is about my third time. The first time was about over a year ago, and the second time was some months back, or I guess the other month, okay? So I'm kind of finding my technique, how I like to do it, and with more acrylic control comes better technique when doing things. So you see how I'm getting the general shape. Now, when I'm doing these pointed petals, I like to spread it out as if I'm doing a regular petal. And then once it starts to get stiffer, I push the sides in with my brush. And this is why 3D flower brushes are made so flat and to a certain point to an extent, because you want to map out this V shape first. Now, once you get that V shape, you want to go back and forth with putting your brush, see the point? Flattening out the middle like this. Some people make their brushes flatter. I like to use the more pointy end, but it will also decide on what type of acrylic brush you have, because there are different shaped 3D art brushes, okay? So I kind of, use the point of my brush to flatten it out some, And then I go on the sides and I go ahead and add that curve. And the reason why I'm going to add that curve is because I want it to look like an actual, you know, flower petal and not just something that's sitting there looking stiff. Okay, so here we go one more time. Now the top one is a little bit harder because, and the reason why I'm considering this intermediate is because not only do you have to have good acrylic control, but your hand placement has to be on point. Because I'm trying to tell you, when I do flowers that are like on top like this or on opposite sides, the dexterity that is needed, it can be kind of frustrating if you're not used to holding your hand in certain ways. So you're going to see me adjust and things like that, and that's normal, okay? So I let it kind of sit, and now we're going to go ahead and create our V shape. Okay, so we can get this nice petal. Now you can see it's not coming as easy on the top one, only because it's a lot harder to kind of have to hold your hand over someone else's hand. But again, use them for stability, okay? So we're just going to keep going and poking in the middle and patting the sides like so. And the brush is made so you can do this. So at first, it's going to be a struggle. And the only reason it will be a struggle at first is if your liquid to powder ratio is not what it needs to be. Because you need something that's a little stiffer. So that way when you're doing this, it stays in place, but it's still soft enough to mold, okay? That is the key. Okay, so we need it soft enough to mold, but stiff enough to stay in place. And you will have some wiggle time to go ahead and do this. Now, I would highly suggest that you do not use a speed monomer for this, okay? Or a speed powder. Either or, honestly, because there are liquids that is like a fast drying liquid. Like when you put it with your powder, it dries very fast. And then there are powders that when you mix the monomer with a certain powder, it's that way, you know? Hold on a second. Y'all know how to get a little bit of juice. Okay, so now that these both are pretty much drying or close to dry, you do not want to go on to the next petals if the other ones are not almost dry, because it will be a liquidy mess. So this is going to be just a traditional petal like I normally do. And you can see how the bead is, you know, setting. And once it's more set, I go ahead and I stick my brush in there. And I'm going to do 2 large petals on each side because my mom does have shorter nails. And I wanted to go ahead and really make this flower as big as possible and not look like the petals were just tiny and squished. So this is just going to be a traditional petal. And you guys know I like to pinch in the sides to make it really accentuate the roundness. And I don't want the petals to look like they are hanging off the edge or they're flat in certain areas and protruding in others. So what I'm doing is on that side petal right there, as I'm pushing it out, I'm pinching the sides in and I'm making sure that the edge of that petal does not want to hang onto the sidewall. Okay, so again, we're going to get a large bead, and this is considered a large bead as far as 3D art goes, okay? Because these brushes are, this is like a size 4 brush. You see what I'm saying? So we're going to get a petal there. And for you guys, I would have started at the bottom petal if you are more on the beginner side, just because the last petal that you did, the top one, it may not have been all the way dry, and the liquid can possibly activate what's going on and cause it to be a little wetter, you know? We don't want that if something's drying. So again, we're going to put it down. Now when you're putting petals close to each other like this, you want to make sure, like I said, the other one is drying, because you do want to be able to have the control to manipulate this petal without smushing the other one and disturbing it too much. So you see how those two are just like that? Bam. Now the opposite side, here we go. We're going to put that one there, and this one I kind of placed a little wonky, and that's okay because as it's setting, because it is a little wetter than what I would like, so I'm going to add to it a slightly drier bead to, number 1, help dry it out, and number 2, it was not as big as I needed. So do you see how I have to kind of contort myself? It's nothing wrong with that. Get comfortable with being in somebody's business, okay? Because the thing about it is, a lot of doing nail art and 3D art like this, it's not like you're about to use your left or your non-dominant hand to do this. I mean, you can. Sometimes I think about it, but then I also think about, like, okay, I need to get comfortable with being able to do certain angles, because it will help you in other aspects of doing nail art if that's what you're getting into. And that's what I'm learning myself, okay? So we're gonna keep the acrylic off of the off the stones. Okay, see how I'm lifting up the side off of that sidewall? Well, I can't tell if you guys can see this, but I'm lifting it off the sidewall because I don't want the flower petal to look droopy and be leaning over that sidewall. So now I'm just kind of rounding it out, because in doing so and picking up that petal, it had to give it a squared effect, and that's not what I wanted. Okay, so you can see that one, okay, it's starting to kind of dry. So I'm giving it a second, letting this bead set, and I'm gonna pop this one right in there. Come on, girl, get it together. So you can see how this bead is kind of like a little bit wetter than it kind of needs to be, but it's okay because it's setting. Okay, see, I'm kind of testing it, and I'm like, all right, good to go. So in order to get all these petals to have a similar appearance in shape and roundness, you really just have to watch what you're doing. You need to develop a technique in which you can eyeball your own beads and say, okay, when I lay this bead down, it needs to look like this, and that's how I know it's going to produce this size of petal. Okay, and you know, when you're first doing this, child, please. When you're first doing this, you are going to produce some inconsistencies. Like I said, this is my third time doing this. The first time, oh please, those petals were so flat. Those triangular petals, they were so flat, and it was not giving petal. It was giving stick. It was very skinny. It wasn't it. Okay. So now we're gonna go over to the other hand, and this one is gonna be a side piece one. Now we're gonna do a petal again on top and on bottom, and we're gonna do 3 round ones in the middle. Now this one, I'm doing a much larger V-shaped petal just because we have more space. Now another thing you want to take into consideration is you would like even spacing on top and on bottom of whatever rhinestone you're putting in the middle, because you want a very even appearance. You want it to look like it just came like this, you know. And when doing these, somebody done slammed the damn door. Okay, all right, here we go. So same thing, we're doing the same thing with this pointed petal. Now the difference with this is you need to have proper placement with this type of bead, because otherwise it's gonna look like it's on the sidewall. And again, we don't want the petals to look like they're on the sidewall. We want us to be able to see it just from this angle, from the top angle. If I would have put it a little bit closer to the edge, it's gonna look a little bit wonky, and what you're gonna have is that it's not going to be evenly matched with the rhinestone. And it may be tempting to kind of put it a little bit further over, like, ooh, you know, I want to put it on the edge because that's where the rhinestone is at, but don't do that. Okay, it's gonna throw off the whole look, because trust me, been there, done that. And I've also been in a place where I put it too far over. Again, my first time doing this type of flower, child, please, I was like, girl, I'm still trying to get the hang of regular ones, but okay, I'll give it a try. It wasn't giving anything it needs to give. Okay, so see with this second one, again, we're letting it set. I'm fanning it out, and then I'm basically going on the sides and pinching it back in, and that's how you will get that pointed petal. And then once the pinching in kind of sets, I will go ahead, see, after this, I will go ahead and fan the sides out, because I don't want something that's super duper skinny, and I'm just going to play with it back and forth until I get the desired width. Because realistically, you want the 2 sides of the petal, see where I'm touching right here, you want that to be more fanned out, and you want it to pinch down into a V. There's millions of ways you can do this, and whichever way is pleasing to you, go ahead and stick with it, boo. Okay, so do you see how, like, both of these petals, they're pretty evenly matched? And it's okay if they're not exactly perfect, because guess what, neither is a real flower. Okay, so now when you're doing 3 petals like this, I'm going to show you or talk you through it, so that way we don't get a very squished and pinched appearance. So you could start with the middle one, and you know, that's fine. If you have trouble, kind of an eye for detail of getting like what centered, I would say start with the middle. If that doesn't bother you, and you kind of got sizing and shaping down, and again, my brother, he want to pull in. People, every time I get to talking on this voiceover, people want to go ahead and do their business. Come on. Anyway, so basically, this side bead, we're going to fan it out at an angle. You see how it's at an angle and just not straight up sideways? My brush is at an upward angle, and I'm pinching in the sides. If you do not do this and you decide to just straight up, you know, have it perpendicular towards the other fingers, you're gonna get smushing, because this bead right here, this middle bead, and I do the middle just a slightly smaller because the other beads are gonna kind of overlap. This bead, you see how I'm going straight out to the side? See, that one is up more, this one's out to the side. If you do not go upward motion on this bead like this, and you do this on that first one, you're gonna get smushing because the flower needs space to fan. And when you pinch the middle like how I'm doing, that's how you get them all to fit. Now, the reason why I go ahead and start each bead when the other beads are a little bit less dry, because these ones aren't all dry, right? Because I need time to go back and play with them, so that way I can get them all the same shape and size. You see what I'm saying? So I'll go back and play with the other two while I'm doing this one. And this one is a little bit more intricate in the sense that all three of these are drying at the same time. So you really need to know how to kind of hook it up so you can go back and forth and play with everything, all right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Really, go ahead and watch the first one that I've done on acrylic flowers if you need help. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at Nailsbyprettyface. You know what I'm saying? Tag me in some stuff. Let me know if you're trying stuff. And again, here's the final result. And y'all already know, okay? Stay tuned in, and I'm going to see y'all tomorrow.